you just choose that? Oh, it can. It's tracking out. See what? Let me pick this up. See, John? See that thing? It's tracking out. All right. So, yeah, if you look. Okay. Good. That's right. So we can actually double click our nose.
Silence is golden.
Are we ready to get started?
Duct tape is silver.
He's talking, so we just go. And then we're going to this. We need that.
A lot of people here tonight, so yeah, I guess yeah, I'm John. I'm one of the new idiot, rookie presenters. I'm here as the seasoned presenter, and tell me everything I do wrong. But yeah, I guess this is our second quarter showdown. Yeah, we've got Ericka, Archna, and Data tonight. So
Can you guys stand up?
So, as far as all the organizers here, because we have our growing flock. So yeah, Sean, he can't be here tonight. He's for some reason in Brazil. You know why?
I have no idea why.
Okay, yeah. We hope he's coming back, but yeah, you never know. Join me here. We have Karim, Carl, Sarah, and myself. Okay. And then, of course, DataVistas DC is part of the larger data community, DC community. It's a little bit redundant, but you have the other ones here: system processing, data science, data education, even data science. Is it night owls or digital nomads?
That's night owls.
Night owls. Okay. And then I think we have a few affiliates. Wranglers, Full Stack DC, and Nova. And so you know the other two that are becoming a part of Data Community?
I have no idea.
Okay, yeah. I think there are a couple more, but yeah, they haven't made it onto the slides yet, so pending further information, we'll figure that out. Okay. Is this kind of sponsorship?
No, but
okay.
I can do it if you want.
Doesn't make sense. I'll keep going. Okay. I guess, we have a number of other companies that help us out from time to time, so I guess Sean's company is General Influence, right? ETA, Fourth Society, and the Deep Learning Analytics. They help us out a lot. And now, take it away.
All right, folks. We're so happy to see you. We're so happy to see you because tonight's going to be great. We have so many data visualizers, so many people who work all day with data and Covfefe. It's going to be great because tonight is going to be a huge night for data. All right, we got Booz Allen. They love data scientists. If you're looking for a job or want to be a data scientist, they're so great. Look them up, Booz Allen. They're one of our sponsors. They're one of our best sponsors. And they're great. They're wonderful folks. Let me tell you how great they are. They are so great. They have my favorite thing in the title, booze. And then we have O'Reilly, because they have cute little pictures of animals on the cover of the books. The animals are so great. The books are so dense and so technical about data. But if you really want to buy the books, just buy them for the animals. And then we have District Data Labs. They're so great. There's so many educational sponsors right here. DDL, out of DC, they do great data learning, great corporate training for data. Train your people so they can be great. Because the people who come out of District Data Labs are the best people. They are your data scientists, they are your data analysts, they are your data visualizers. They do so many great things. Then statistics.com, alternative facts are great, but alternative bins are better. So go to statistics.com, learn statistics. And Data Society. Learn, interact with people who do data in the area. Learn how governments use data. Do great things. And now our MCS, your sponsor tonight, is Chief. And they are so great. So everybody give them a round of applause for the space. So great. Jim, they love you. It's so great. It's so great. Okay, then statistics.com, you get 15% off if you click on that link, which will be in the PowerPoint. And full stack agents, if you're looking to launch a startup or basically get more networking done in DC, please email agents@datacommunitydc.org. And we have a huge bigly network of people who are looking to be introduced to people who are doing data in DC. So if you're looking for a job, want to start a company, want to build a wall, just do great things. Agents at datacommunitydc.org. We're also doing colleague matches as well for mentored mentees. So if you are a new data analyst or a new data scientist or somebody who's just finished a grad program or a PhD or is still doing an undergrad program and you want to be matched with a mentor, by all means email us with colleague or mentor in the title of your email, and we will match you with somebody great.
So Sean went ahead and actually shot out an email to the 50 some odd people that did answer the questionnaire.
Okay.
And I think, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, but yes, that will be part of the data drinks afterwards. So.
And we're going to live stream this on YouTube as well. So in a couple days, we'll share the link to the meetup group so you guys can watch this. Announcements. Anybody looking to do anything bigly? Anything huge with data? Anybody looking for a job? Anybody looking for something? You, yes, you.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Will. I work with Graphicacy. We're a web design and web development agency here in DC, and we're hiring developers or people who have some front-end development knowledge. So if you're a front-end developer or have some skills in that area and you love data viz, we are interested in talking. So apply me afterwards.
And you have to love it because data viz is so great.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, my name is Courtney. I work at Esri Geographic Information Systems, and we are hiring data scientists that want to work with local data, open data from cities, coming up with analyses surrounding policy initiatives.
Winning, thank you.
Hi, I just started my company, Progressive DC, and I really, Progressive DC.
What?
Progressive DC.
Progressive DC?
Yeah. And I want to help underserved communities and businesses in DC specifically with Open Data DC, and hopefully someone's helping this room to help underserved companies and connect them with underserved youth, and to be progressive and actually stand for, have what we stand for and what we voted for be reality. So yeah, please talk to me after.
We also have a special announcement tonight, thanks to the folks at O'Reilly.
Tony, we got another announcement.
Oh, okay.
Hi, my name is Julie, and I recently started my own search firm for statisticians, data analysts, program managers, operational managers, and so kind of, just getting my feet wet, kind of looking to see if anybody's interested in having a name in my database or working a contract with me. In addition, I work full-time with the courts, and we're getting ready to post a position for a grant-funded data-type position, probably like a data analyst. So if anybody's interested in that as well, let me know. See me about cards with me.
Talk to Julie for your grant-funded data position. So great. So much winning, so much data. So many grants. All right, any other announcements? Adele, yes.
Hello, everybody. Hi. So I'm the founder of a new DC area data analytics company, a tool that tries to make data visualization and analytics accessible to everybody. So I'm looking for like an interns trying to help communicate the value of data visualization. So if you're interested in that, or ambassadors, so if you're interested in that, let me know. Thanks.
All right. Yes.
I'm Carl Kaufman. I'm an organizer for Drupal GovCon, and although it's basically focused around Drupal, we have free admission for everyone. We do actually do some events on data visualization. If anybody's looking at attending or sponsoring, come talk to me after the event.
All right, so thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for your announcements. We're in for a great series of presentations tonight, and we are going to make data great again. Okay, we have a special announcement as well from the folks at O'Reilly organizing JupyterCon. So you get to go up to New York, and if you enter this code, you get to go up to New York for a couple $100 less than what you would have gone up to in the first place. So early pricing ends June 30th. Use that code. Once again, it'll be in the presentation. But just in case we don't get it up in time, make sure you take a picture of it now.
But there's more.
But there's more.
So,
Oh, go back.
So,
Put it on auto adjust.
back here for a second. There's also a way to get a bronze pass for free if you, the second URL, and this is where you put in your information. So we will get this up on the NEO site somehow in a few days at the latest. But yeah, that's the mark. So, let's see here. Okay.
Graph Connect going on in New York, October 23rd to 24th. 50% off tonight only. DC DV 50. It's going to be great, folks. So many graphs, lattice graphs, bar graphs, amazing graphs.
And the tonight only is liberally applied, so it's less literal and more figurative.
And then data drinks, the parts you guys all came here for, is going to be at the Big Hunt, which is going to be right next door. So we will walk you there after this. Okay.
Okay, Ericka, you're first. Okay.
Thank you very much. So I'm Ericka Menchen-Trevino. I'm an assistant professor at American University right here in DC. And so I'm going to be talking to you about my web historian project. But I want to ask you a question first. Have you ever clicked the button, I agree, on terms of service that you haven't read? Anybody? Who's done this today? I did, actually. Right? So does anybody ever worry about that or not feel great about that? Right? It's not a super great feeling to do that all the time, but yet it's not feasible to read all of these agreements. There was actually a study several years ago that calculated the economic cost if people were actually to read the privacy policies of all the websites that they visited, and it would take people at least between 45 minutes and an hour and a half every day just to read these privacy policies. And how much would you actually understand, right? Has anybody ever tried to read these kinds of things? And how did it go? Great. Okay. Yes. So some of them are better than others, right? But anyway, so what I want to talk to you about is, as a social scientist, we actually kind of do something a lot like this, which is have these great legalistic type of forms for people, which are called, you've probably seen an informed consent form, and somewhat familiar with these kinds of things, right? So if you do a research study, you'll get a form, and it looks a lot like a terms of service agreement, and it's basically the same kind of purposes. It was conceived because of problems with research ethics in a lot of studies back in the day, but these days it's somewhat of a legalistic formality in a lot of cases. So my interest is actually in integrating digital traces into social science research. And so in order to do that, I think it's really important that people are informed about what the digital traces are in a real way, right? Not in this sort of fake, I agree type of way. So what I want to do is actually move beyond that model of uninformed consent and think about what would real informed consent look like if people actually knew what they were agreeing to and what kind of data they were giving people, right? This is a little bit of an alternate universe that I'm imagining here, but that's really what this project is about. So just to give a little overview of what I'm talking about. So the Web Historian project is a browser extension, and what it does right now is that it solves a problem for social science researchers about gathering web browsing history data with informed consent. And the problems that I was talking to the group at the last meetup about was measuring and testing the quality of informed consent, which we tend to basically never do in the social sciences. We're more interested in the quantity of consent rather than the quality of it. But anyway, in medicine, they're also interested in the quality, so there's some models to go on. So I'm interested in testing that, doing some experimental research on that, and then also thinking about providing direct benefits to users through these data visualizations, right? That's sort of part of the idea of partnering with users rather than having this transactional type of approach entirely, right? So, just to give you an idea, to get to the actual data visualization part, right? So this is thinking about what really informed consent might mean. I have a little video of what the extension does currently that you can see to get an idea. So this is a Chrome extension. If you Google web historian, you'll find it and you can install it for Chrome. What this does is visualize web browsing history, and the idea is to give people an idea of what it really is in there. So this is a network diagram. This is all done in D3, and so you see the big items here are Google and Facebook. This gives you a sense of where you're going from and navigating from and to. It lets you delete or it lets you see the underlying data in there quickly, and you can delete individual items from there, which is all to informed consent. You can get a sense on the domain level as well. This is the visits view, which shows you how many times you visited various sites. It also lets you view the time of day you visited a site, for example. I visit Google Docs a lot for all kinds of reasons, all times of day. These are the search terms that I used. You just pick those out of the URLs to do some visualizations on that. These are the terms that I use most often are larger, and it gives you the actual terms there. You can sort of slide that date slider to different positions. You can also sort of see how the visualization changes when you go from number of visits to number of different days that sites are viewed. So here, this is a number of days that these sites are visited. And this is going out to a 90-day view. So these are the sites that I visit habitually, right? This is the habits view. So that's just to give you a quick sense of what the tool currently does. Right now, it's set up to be very exploratory, and so one of the things I've been thinking about, and I got some good feedback at the workshop about this as well, is that it needs to be more of a step-by-step process where people go through to consent to the research rather than exploring in an open-ended way and then consenting to the research. So that's something that I'm working on now. So just so this was in case the video didn't work. I have these slides here. And then also, this is information I think is really important for people to know, which is basically where is your web browsing history. So the web browsing history that you're viewing in Web Historian is here on your computer, and you can keep it from being on your computer by using an incognito or private mode. That doesn't keep it from your ISP or the individual websites that you visit. So this is sort of shows all the places that have, these places have pieces, right? You go to Google, they obviously have your history of browsing Google on Google, but your ISP has everything, right? So you may have heard about a rule that was canceled in the Senate recently about, it was going to be the case that internet service providers weren't allowed to sell your private browsing history data, and now that's okay again, or that rule never went into effect. So anyway, the only way to keep your web browsing history from your ISP is to use a VPN. This particular browser extension can't do anything for you in that regard. But this is, I think, educational information that I want to incorporate into the informed consent process so that people have an understanding of, just a better understanding of what they're seeing through the tool. Okay. So just quickly to address problem 1, measuring and testing the quality of informed consent. I'm working on some survey questions to try to do this. So this is the things that the extension are trying to show. So if you use the visualizations and you come to this, I hope that you would know the answer to these questions more than if you came off the street, right? So if you're in a study, there's different experimental conditions. In one condition, you get the visualizations, then you get this question. I hope you would get more right than if you didn't see the visualizations. So that's what I mean by sort of testing the quality of informed consent in that case, right? Fortunately, your web browser does not know your exact weight. So that's the only one that's not true on that list there. But it's actually kind of hard to think of something that it couldn't plausibly know. And then this is sort of the general knowledge. I would imagine that this wouldn't change based on the personalized visualizations necessarily, but just providing the general information might help with these particular questions about where web browsing is and how you can do it from various things. So this is the design for the study. Currently I have 5 conditions. One with just the data table that offers people control, but no visualizations. One with the full sort of extension that I showed you. One with no data review at all. And one with a generic, meaning my data generally review. And then the survey would be the questions that I just showed you, just to understand what people know about their browser history. Okay, now we're almost to the end here. How am I doing on time? All right. So for problem 2 here, providing direct benefits to users. This would be either people who volunteered because they want to use this to understand their web browsing, or people who are compensated and recruited. I think they both should get direct benefits to some extent. So ideas on that were ideas to sort of solve problems and entertain people, educate people at the same time. People might want to know, they might want to reduce their use of a particular website, Facebook, for example. This tool could tell you how much you're visiting Facebook, how much you've used it over in the past, maybe suggest a goal for how much you want to use it in the future. It could be entertaining to know that kind of thing. It could be a quiz of some kind. Other things you could do with it could be prediction. So these are things that we talked about in the workshop that we did at a previous meetup. So it could say something like, you know, tomorrow at 10, you're likely to be on the website Netflix, right? If he sees you doing that every day. And then the last thing is also, it could support awareness and advocacy about internet privacy, specifically. So this is just a news article about the rules that I mentioned that. So the framing for that would be about sort of showing people in a literal way what it means for this rule to exist. I think that it could be a tool to sort of help raise awareness and maybe get people to be active in this area, to actually show people what their browsing history shows. So that's an idea for framing that. And I want to thank Data Visualization DC for helping me with this project, and look forward to hearing questions and comments.
Yeah. So the source of the data data that you're actually using, that you're interacting with there, are you directly working with the history from the browser information?
Yes. Yeah, it's a Chrome extension, so it gets that.
Okay, so if they're using it in incognito mode, it will show up as blank.
Right, if you use incognito mode all the time, you won't have anything to show. Yes, yes, that's correct.
So to follow up with that one, what data are you actually collecting with that purpose?
Yeah, so at the end of the informed consent process, you have reviewed everything. You can delete whatever you want and choose to participate in the project or not. Meaning, whatever's left that you didn't decide to delete is what's included in the project.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you measuring cross-device, like desktop and mobile?
That's planned for the future. It's not possible to do in a Chrome extension, but there's other potential ways to do that. Mobile is difficult because if you think about your mobile browser versus your desktop browser, you do very different things in those two browsers. Because, for example, if you go to Facebook on your desktop, you're going in a browser versus an app. On a technical level, those are very different kinds of things to measure, so I'm thinking about how to work with that. Yes.
Who knows what evils lurk in the heart of men?
You can find out. You are a historian.
Alright. So I noticed in one of the the E3 bubble visualizations that you have multiple bubbles of docs.google.com. So how are you going to manage in the future?
I think Docs just has one bubble. It does three. For Google, it does 3 dots, meaning the top level domain and then 2 below, and that's how it decides for Google.
But what if I mean, I'm an MX user, and once I log into my account, I think the address before /global.americanexpress.com, not americanexpress.com, is really easier extension able to actually handle and treat that as the same thing.
Yeah, so it's an open source extension, and the code is there so that you could make that kind of change. And for example, if you were doing a research project that depended on having that level of detail for that site, it's pretty easy to make those kind of customizations. But from a user perspective, it's not easy to change that because providing the interface for that would be massively difficult. But from a researcher perspective, and in terms of looking at the data, you have the full URL. So it's just a matter of slicing it up.
One more question.
Yeah, so you might have said this at the beginning, but it sounds like if I install your browsing extension and I consent to everything, I end up sending you my web history. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Are you doing anything with that web history at this point, or is it just a project to see how people answer these questions?
Yeah, so there's a project about how people answer these questions, and then there's a project within that about how people select and avoid news, specifically.
Yeah.
So that's what that project is about. The project within the project is about news and information. Yeah.
All right, so let's give another round of applause. Okay, and now, yeah, we're going to move on to Archna here.
Hello everyone, good evening. So today we are going to look at Pharma Navigator. And this is primarily for the biotech and pharmaceutical domain, and idea is to have smarter decisions faster. So there are many parts of Pharma Navigator. Today we are going to concentrate on expert identification, and that is mainly like identifying experts. And who are these experts? How many of you have heard the name KOLs? So KOLs are the key opinion leaders, and these are the scientists, these are the lab heads who are very famous in their areas of research. And when you are looking for experts, many times you are looking for these key opinion leaders. But sometimes you are also looking for rising stars, and these are the upcoming experts who have the potential to be the key opinion leaders in the future. And not only that, you are also looking at universities as an expert identification. And in terms of pharma domain, when we are looking for these people, there are many different use cases that we are thinking about. They go from preclinical to clinical research. Clinical research is where the clinical trials are being conducted. Drugs are used before they come out in the market, and these drugs are being used by patients of different groups, small, big, and large, before drugs gets approved. We also look for regulatory and other agencies. So these are like FDA. So when the drug comes in the market, before that you have to find the right people who can go and present to FDA. So you are looking for expertise there. You are looking for commercial potential of new targets. So what new drugs or what existing drugs you can bring to the market, and who are the right people who can help you with that exercise. And just identifying new therapeutic opportunities. So if there is a company who is working in lung cancer and now they want to get into diabetes, is that the right move for them, and how can they get that information? So they are looking for experts. So the challenge is who you know versus who knows best, because normally the thing is that you want to go to someone who you know because you know that person and you have confidence in that person. But in real life, that may not be the best thing to do, because you want the best person for that particular job. And then there are many challenges that you face as you are identifying experts, such as established areas versus emerging areas. So, for example, diabetes is very established, like in terms of type 2 diabetes and so on, and you probably know who is who in that area, especially when you are working with pharmaceutical companies. But if you are looking for a new target like PD-1, which is getting very popular in the oncology cancer area, then you may not know who is who, right? Similarly, you are looking for experts in all different locations. With the global economic world, you are looking for experts in your local area, national, international. So where do you go find these experts? How do you go? How do you resolve conflict of interest? Because there might be some, that expert has been paid by some other company, and how do you find it if it is your competition, and so on. So one of the areas to look for is financial transparency, how much experts are getting paid for consulting services from other companies. Merit criteria, how active the expert is, what type of publications where you can find his papers, and so on. And then experts who they teach their career, so the one person who is expert 5 years ago may not be the expert in the same area. And then you also want the whole process to be transparent so that you know why system made certain decisions, right? And then one of the biggest challenges, so much exponential growth in data, everything like the publications, patents, grants, everything is growing. So what we will look today is different approaches start with the traditional approach, which is like hiring a company who keeps a database of experts, and then you can ask those companies to provide you a list. But then these are not scalable. There is also an issue of biases and so on. The second approach is tools-driven approach, and this is where we can handle multiple data sources, and with multiple data sources, issues of data duplications, multiple terminologies, name ambiguity, and so on. So this is what we will concentrate today using Biopharma Navigator. Any questions so far, or should we do it at the end? Any questions so far? So in Navigator, we are using different sources for expertise identification. These could be principal investigators from clinical trials data, authors of publications such as Medline, inventors on the USPTO patents, or grantees on the funded grants. And when you bring all these data together, some of the challenges we face, for example, who is who? People write their names in all different ways. John Smith, J. Smith, Smith J, Smith John. So how do you resolve this ambiguity? And then the second is, who works with whom? This is John Smith is working with these three experts. Is this John Smith or that J. Smith, and so on. And this is what we presented to the DC visualization group in May, and we got some very nice feedback to show the relationship among experts. So with that, let's go and we will look at the live case studies rather than the screenshots, just in case the Wi-Fi is not available. Biopharma Navigator, and these are the sources we update almost throughout the day, so you will always see up-to-date information here. The interface is very simple, just like Google, but behind the scene there are a lot of high-level processing, data disambiguation, data deduplication, etc. going on. We will concentrate on the expert today, and here we can look for expertise from disease perspective, from drugs perspective, targets, mechanism of action. So all different ways one can find experts. So let's do search for target PT1, as PT1 is getting very popular nowadays. And as you type, the system will provide you the information for you to auto-suggest. So we are looking for experts in the area of PT1. And as I mentioned, the data sources that we are using: publications, patents, clinical trials, and grants. And currently we have almost 10 million experts in our database. And what you see here, list of experts, their affiliations, and distribution by different counts. The country level distribution of experts, so where you can find experts in USA, China, Australia, and so on. And top affiliations where people have with PT1 expertise. However, just this information is not enough. So what we have, we call expert profile pages. So we select expert and now look for that expert in more detail, getting a 360-degree view. So here is the details from the query perspective. We get the contact information, where this expert is, and even email if it is available in our sources. Distribution in terms of how many publications he has and how many are relevant to our query of PT1. We'll come to co-authors in a minute. but then top journals where this expert has been publishing, because this is an important criteria when you are looking for experts. How actively this expert is publishing, because you do not want to hire an expert who hasn't published in last 5 years. The scientific profile of that expert, so you have an idea in terms of related to PD1, what are the other scientific concepts or keywords that are prominent in his publication area. And then we will look at the co-author network. So this is where we are looking at our main experts and who he is working with. And the thicker line means more publications together. And again, this graph is interactive. So if we want to see what the co-expert is doing, you can click here. And this is something that our clients use to identify conflict of interest, or if the main expert is not available, they can find other sets of experts, and so on. Yeah, and this is what we had focused in the DC visualization meetup, and again we are looking for better ways to visualize this information rather than just the radial network graph. And very recently we have, as you see, it is still beta, so we are adding the Sunshine Act data, which is available from Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services. And this is based on like all pharmaceutical companies, they have to report the amount that they are giving to different experts. So you can see this experts, he's getting funding from all these different companies for general payments, and almost $9 million over last 3 years for research. And this way, there is a financial transparency information as you are looking for experts. So if this company is your competitor, you may want to think about whether you want to hire this expert or not. So the whole idea behind Navigator is make the experience, the user experience easy, simple, and they can find the information in one place. Any questions?
Who's your client focus for this product?
Sorry?
Like who would I be coming in to navigate Biopharma Navigator? Like are you a company looking to hire people? Or are you looking to hire grab someone?
These are companies, so small biotech and big pharmaceutical companies.
Okay.
So this is just one piece of the Biopharma Navigator. Mainly it is a competitive intelligence tool. So pharma companies are looking for their competitors, what are they doing, what their competitors are doing, like their drugs, whether they are in phase 1, phase 4, or in market. So this is a good example like PD1, if we just want to see like if there is a new drug and we want to know if there are already approved drugs in the area, in the market, then same research will take us here and we will look for FDA data. So it is the complete picture from preclinical to market approval. So here just clicking on pharmacovigilance for the same search will give us what are the approved drugs in this area. And you see that these are the approved drugs and then what the outcomes in terms of like as you know that real test of the drug is when the drug goes into market, because that's when the large number of patient population tries the drug. And here, that's where you see like how many occurred in disability or hospitalization, deaths, and so on.
So a couple of years ago, I met a kind of from Cogito. Yeah, which was the precursor to Extra. And I wanted to know a little bit more about how your organization moved from doing it all to focusing on segments. Is there other verticals that you're pitching, and can you tell me more about those?
Maybe we could take this afterwards because it's a little bit far afield from what we're doing. But Cogito is an artificial intelligence engine that reads like you do. And so we can use Cogito for a variety of use cases. In pharmaceutical, we are using it across the different spectrums. For example, Eli Lilly uses Cogito to read all of the FDA submissions, not only for themselves, but also for their competitors. So we do a lot of work in oil and gas, we do a lot of work in national security. We read like you do. We're a little bit different than Watson, and I can go into that later if anyone wants to talk about Watson versus Cogito, I can certainly, but thank you for remembering the name of it. This is an entirely different stack, but the inspiration that you see in Cogito, disambiguation, deduplication, all those same principles are present in this product, where we're all about collapsing the lab code name, the commercial name, and the generic name of the drug, so that when you do a search, those three attributes are collapsed into the search, and you don't even see that.
You're talking about give an example about lymphoma, which is very interesting. I'm a cancer specialist, and lymphoma is one of the most difficult aspects of medicine because the biomarker, the clinical trials are changing every day. So every time I see a new patient, I have to do a computer search because the German, especially, do a lot of study, the European. And what is standard care in the US may not be the standard care of what I read, the new data. So how do you keep up? And I'm an expert. Most of the lymphoma specialists are in European, not in the US. I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah, and that is a good thing. How about we go to the expert and we look for lymphoma specific expert and see if we can get, as I'm typing, do you see? Did I type right?
Yeah, I think you did.
Okay, yeah, lymphoma. Oops, no.
But you're exactly right. The Navigator product is constantly crawling various databases based on the ascending organization. So for example, in news, we crawl every 30 minutes, hundreds of different sites, Twitter feeds from major pharmaceuticals. From NIH, we crawl, I think, weekly, right? And then the US, we have all patents since 2005 for pharmaceutical developments. And we also crawl the European versions of NIH, Instrom, and other major research organizations across Europe.
Right, and for clinical trials, we are crawling all over the world, so it is not just USA, but also Europe, China, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and so on. So here are our list of experts for lymphoma, and you would see that these are not just from US, you have from Germany, Spain, Italy, and you can also restrict by country. So if you're looking for, like, there is a filter, you can use this graph to narrow it down, or you can also like pick a country. So if there is any specific name that you are looking for, we can see if he's in our database or not.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
And just one thing, if any of you would like to try it out, just either contact John or me, and we would be happy to have you try a version to use the product. Thank you all.
Yeah.
So now we're going to have, David. There you go. What's that? That's yours.
Hey everybody. My presentation is going to be sort of a little bit different. Basically, last month I showed up at the database DC meetup, and somebody asked me about sort of like a library that I use, and like asked me if I could do something with it. And I was like, yeah, it's super easy to do that. And they're like, oh great, you should present on it. So like that's why I'm here. Apologies, this is like the second PDF-based presentation we're going to be seeing today, so it's like a tour de force of PDF. It's my first time doing this, so you're probably going to see me like scroll up and down like way too much. But hi, David Sager. I work at. Told you. No. I work at USA. I'm a data analyst at USA at Office of Transition Initiative. If you're familiar with USA, that's me. I do a bunch of stuff there, from like making maps to doing a little bit of database to analysis to like training for good staff and a bunch of different stuff. But like I said, this presentation is just basically about sort of DCJS, dimensional charting JS, for folks who are interested in sort of like building data visualization. With it, it's like one tool of like a million different visualization tools out there, but I think it has like certain strengths or weaknesses. So to sort of like go over a few of those things. Going to cover sort of what it is, what I think it's good for, what maybe it's not good for, and then how to extend it. So just show of hands, who here is familiar with like D3, and then who's familiar with DC, this library? Much less people. Yeah, and that's probably because there's like a lot of libraries that do what DCJS does. It's another sort of D3 abstraction library. There's a ton of these out there, and they all generally do like a similar thing. You like create an object with this library, and you tell it like where to hook into your HTML, and it just creates like a chart. So you don't have to go too deep into D3. D3 is like a super low level API, so like you don't really want to mess around with that too much. Then you don't have to with like libraries like this, and that can be really useful. I was looking around at other like DC like presentations that mentioned this library, and I like came across one from Tom McWright, who's like a local developer, does like a lot of geo stuff. And he was like seemed a little negative, not on just DC, but just sort of like on the whole idea of these like D3 abstraction libraries. He said that D3 abstractions are like kittens, and like I wasn't at the presentation, but I think I think that he was referring to this like meme. It was like very negative. It was like a very negative presentation about D3 abstractions. So like it's like a fairly good point. Like I kind of understand why you would like if there's like a whole lot of use cases where you wouldn't want to use an abstraction library like this. Like if you were doing something in React or whatever, or some kind of framework that's like very has a lot of opinions about statefulness of your data, and sort of you want to make like reusable charts that you can reuse throughout your organization or throughout your website, then maybe something like this isn't the right thing for you. What I think it's useful for is like you just want to throw a dashboard together. You just want to like throw a bunch of charts together. Like the 99% use case where you just, like your data can be explained by a bunch of like bar charts and pie charts that like react together. So you click on the pie chart and it like filters the other data. I'd like to think like the ultimate use case is like you're a data scientist, you have this data, you want to sort of present it to people, but you don't want to you want to spend your time on the data and not the visualization so much. Like you just want to like throw some common charts up and like just do that really quickly and like not spend time like. Even if you know a little bit of D3, I think it can be useful. Like you just don't want to spend time doing the visualization. You just know what you want to like get through quickly. So yeah, dashboards. I can show you. Switch over to the browser. Okay, so stuff like this. This is like the use case that I most recently used it for at work. There's a big survey that we ran in Ukraine. They were really forward-leaning with how they wanted to disseminate it. They wanted it essentially to be on just like out in the open for everyone to see. It's a very large survey. I think that like I got it in an Excel spreadsheet with like 1,000 columns. But they just wanted to take out a few select things that they were interested in and sort of like show it off to people. So I can click on different charts and it filters the other ones. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it's not really the point. But but it was really easy to do this, and it didn't take like I know D3 a little bit, but I didn't have to like spend a couple months like with D3 to be able to put this together. And the other thing is like I don't need a database. Like DUC.js is built essentially to work with cross-filter, and I'll talk about cross-filter in a little bit. But it operates essentially like a client-side like database. You can do like a limited amount of things that you would do in a sort of normal relational database and do it on the client side, which is super useful coming from like working in the federal IT ecosystem. I don't know if any of you have any experience with that, but it's a monster of like a headache to like get approval from your IT office to stand up a database and like get accredited. It's just like a mess. So like not having to do that and just being able to present a project with a bunch of files, like a bunch of JavaScript and like HTML is really, really useful. And then like handing things over is like, it makes that a lot easier. So like this, they wanted this to live on somebody else's website at some point. So like instead of like having to manage a server or like whatever, like talk to somebody about Amazon instances, I can just like literally like zip this up and like send it to them from like zip the switch. So yeah, dashboards. So like instead of like one, I want a pie chart, you want like a pie chart, a line chart, a box plot, and you want them all to sort of like be reactive to each other. You all know what dashboards are. There's a lot of stuff you can do out of the box with DCJS. You can do your box plots, you can do line charts, you can do all the things that you would expect sort of charting library to do. But what I think is like somewhat unique, and there may be other charting like D3 abstractions that work like built expressly to like work with cross-filter, is that it works with cross-filter. And so like I'll talk a little bit about cross-filter. But basically, like I said, it sort of acts as a database in a browser. You can feed it a blob of JSON. You create a cross-filter object. And then there's like kind of two ideas with cross-filter. There's like dimensions and groups. Dimensions will be like an aspect of your data, whether that's like a column or sort of a relationship between two columns. And then you make a group out of that dimension. So you want to sort of aggregate your data in some way. And those are the two sort of important things to just like know about cross-filter and DC. But instead of just like feeding DC your just raw data, you feed it a dimension, and then it's like smart enough to know that when you like click on one of the other charts, I've filtered this data and I want all the other charts to be responsive to that. So you don't really need to worry about like on-click events or like doing any of that. It just like handles that out of the box, which is like really useful. Especially if you're not like the best JavaScript coder in the world, and you just like don't want to have to like write a bunch of events and like end up with like getting code. So yeah, feed it to cross-filter. In this case, I'm like, these are my pets, and this is how much they cost. I'm going to make a dimension out of the species, and I'm going to make a dimension out of the price. So like the important thing here is like, right, so you can filter on these dimensions. So I wanted to filter like all the pets that are turtles, and then I want to filter the prices that are within like 5 and 7. So if I were to console log price top one, which is like the top one of the price, you would expect it to be the one with the highest price. The important thing, I guess, that I wanted to get across with this slide is that it's stateful. So like any filter that you do on any dimension is then observed by the cross-filter object that you created the dimensions from. And that's sort of like how all the charts can be responsive to each other. So like I filtered on 2 different dimensions, but they both observe those filters unless like they're from the cross-filter object. So the like overall sort of workflow is like take the data, put it in cross-filter, take your cross-filter object in a couple dimensions and groups. There's right there, but in groups, and then feed that to DCJS, and that's it. Like you just put like a couple, like give it a couple. You tell it the width, the height, and there's like a whole bunch of other options that you can do, like how you want it to look. You can go edit the CSS if you want to change colors. And that's like all you need to that's all you need to do, and then you have like a dashboard that's like reactive to each other. It's super quick. So the question that I was asked at the last database thing was like, oh, you know, like this would be really helpful. This would like speed up my workflow. That could be useful, but like if I wanted a chart that's like outside of the scope of the few options that are available to you in the library, what do I do then? And I'm like, oh, stuck. But it's not true. Like DC.js is a super open framework, and it's really easy to extend. It's also like not very well documented at all. So like most people don't know that you can like literally. There's a few different sort of. There's a base mixin object within the library, and if you just call that object, that's like the sort of aggregate, abstracted like chart. And that's all you really need to like take any D3 and then sort of like have it read into your cross-filter objects and have it be reactive to all your other charts. If you do that, you just like create a new chart, call the base mixin, and then like every time you click on any other chart, or like when you first instantiate your charts, it'll call do render, so like whatever D3 you want in there to build your chart or whatever you want to do. And then anytime you click on any of the other charts, like it'll call do redraw, and then you like move the bars up and down, or like move this ball left to right, or like do whatever it is that like you want to do to be responsive to the new data in your cross-filter object. So that was the question that I was asked, and like that's the answer. And like, so that's it. That's all I got.
Question, okay.
Great presentation, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
So if I want to start using DCJS and I don't want to go through the hassle of spending hours or days learning it, what's the quickest way to get started?
There's an abstraction library called like D.js. Yeah, if you want to use DC.js and you don't want to learn DC.js. use Tableau, or like use like Excel charts or something. Yeah. Sorry, that's not a very good answer. But like, yeah, there's like software out there that you can use and pay for to that might be easier or not.
But maybe I can rephrase. You said that documentation is reported.
Oh, yeah.
Where can I find resources to learn this?
There's a pretty active like Google group, and that's like, and they're like, there's like one person on it who's pretty. He's like really responsive, and probably answer any questions that you have. I can like give you the URL. No, it's not me. Yeah.
So DC.js actually
Good God, I mean, I actually don't know whether it's 508 compliant. I would assume probably not, because it's not, there's not like a huge developer base behind it, it's just like a couple cats who do it on their own. But I use it, it's not sort of hosted on USA, I use it more for sort of like for internal purposes or for like our, basically like our, people funded through our programs.
I would imagine that you have to get authorization within USAID to deploy it, and that should be section 5 compliant.
If it was going to be on USA.gov, I would. Yeah, or if it was like an official.
Internally, there's still federal laws that require you to be section 5 compliant.
Yeah. So I'm not actually sure if it's 5. It might be 508 compliant, but there's no VPAT or whatever.
Lucky for you.
Yeah.
So DC.js is basically can be thought of as like a gateway drug for D3 kids, right?
Yeah. Basically, if it's like if you know a little bit D3, but you don't want to mess with it, or you don't know any D3, but you want to come up with that thing. Yeah, but essentially it's abstracted D3.
But so as a data analyst, about 90% of your job can be done through just using this library. You don't have to go outside of this, right?
Yeah, essentially if like the charts that you need are in the base library, then you don't need to really even know D3 or much at all.
One more quick question. The learning curve, so how many months of just sustained learning do you think it'll take to get to intermediate level?
I mean, I think if you know like some basic HTML and like CSS, or even if you don't know that much of that at all, I think maybe with like a week of learning you can put this together, because like literally like that, like, oh god, PDF, man, I don't know. Like, damn it. It's very it's harder than PDF. Or it's easier, yeah.
Any more questions?
I got a question on cross-filter. How much time would you spend trying to learn cross-filter, and would it be useful for anything else, or is cross-filter just plug in DC JS?
Yeah, no. So CrossFilter was built by Square to sort of like run its. It's like the thing that runs. I think at least at one point, or it still is, like the thing that runs in like when you swipe your card and you like. It was run to do like financial transaction. It's essentially like an OLAP server on the client side. So it's used if you use it to do anything from like financial transactions to anything that you need to use to aggregate data. It can be useful for. It just so also happens to be useful for like charting libraries and stuff. Yeah.
So with a small support staff and support documentation, what's your brutally honest assessment for the future-proofness of this? Like, is it 6 months sort of stopgap, and then you should probably just wind up learning D3, or do you think it actually has some legs to it that you can keep using it for a while?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for one-offs. That's why, like, I would be hesitant, sort of like suggesting this as like your sort of charting library for your to like run a business on or whatever. But I think it's useful for just like I want to throw a one-off dashboard together around one project or whatever. I would feel comfortable doing that. And like it works right now. You know, like there is not a huge support staff around it. So like I'm sure something else. But especially like there's so many D3 abstractions. I wouldn't be surprised if like in a couple of months, like a new, cooler. I don't think this is new or cool. Like it's definitely not the coolest of the charting libraries because like nobody raised their hand when I asked them wasn't there familiar. I'm sure that there's like better stuff out there right now, and if not, there will be soon. Yeah.
So what charting library should we learn if we want to be like data analysts to make all the money in the world?
I think if you want to make like, I mean, I think D3 is a good thing to just learn really well if you want to do like really cool, like out of it. I mean, you can do anything visual with it. I think it's like not a bad idea. It's just like a good way to learn just web everything. It's based on standards. So I would push people to learn D3.
So great, so big, so huge.
Yeah.
Great library. So many charts. The charts are so good.
Absolutely.
Build the charts. Everybody chant. Build the charts. Build the charts. Build the charts.
How about instead we just give them a round of applause? Okay, so yeah, we're running a little bit ahead of schedule. Does anyone have a presentation they're desperately willing to give?
This is the point of the night where we ask you, what kind of data visualization do you want to do? If anybody has a laptop or a GitHub and they want to showcase what they want to do, come on up. Floor's all yours. Surely somebody has some data viz they want to showcase. Adil, do you want to show off Kashif? Maybe.
I've presented it like a year ago.
Oh, go ahead. Come on up.
Should I?
Show us what you got. Show me what you got.
This is kind of brand new. I'm just releasing this kind of online platform where you can plug in your data and place these charts automatically. So no JavaScript programming. No, I mean we see all the DC.js. So I think it would be a good follow-up to that. So and the nice thing is you can use it right now. It's free as well, especially for open data. And I'm going to be just demonstrating it live. So this is, you can go to Keshift.me. So just trying to, you know,
How do you spell it?
Keshift.me. So you have this button there. So, and again, I want to highlight, this is, you can use it right now and you don't need any programming or, you know, any like big skills. And you'll be able to create this dashboard that you saw like this we saw recently. So I am going to log in with my Google account here. So that is needed because verification. Yes. All right. So you can pull up your data from Google Sheets and Google Drive as an example, and we're adding some new importers as well. So if you want to, there are a couple of data sets I imported already, but I want to start from scratch. And the one data set that I really like to show is the sales data, which everybody is familiar with. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this dashboard. Like, okay, all of that work is gone. So what do I do now? I can go back into the data set import panel again, and it shows it's going to show all the sheets that I had. So one of them is this thing called Superstore. You might be familiar with this whole Tableau demonstration. So it's the same data set.
Tableau, never heard of it.
Same data set, I still use that a lot of times. So this is side-by-side comparison. So this is just previewing the data set that you have, just making sure everything is correct, date and time. I'm just fixing that. Explore now. What we're going to do is go from that data and understand it. Yes?
Can you make changes in that output that you have right there?
Yes. So what I just did was just to format the data, and just to say this is a date. It's digesting information, so it's like read only. So it just pulls up the data. If you want to make some changes, you need to go back into the data source and change that. But there are some ways that you can actually introduce some changes on the dashboard as well. So with this sales data, so it's basically you just want to understand your sales operation, who's selling, what products are selling, and what's the profit margin. There's so many questions you can ask. There's so many questions your boss can ask, right? And you don't want to just go ahead and just like some simple chart and just like, okay, so this is how we're doing online. But what if they ask, how are we doing in different regions? How are we doing in different, there's so many ways to digest that data, and just one dashboard is not going to cut it. And even your boss, or the goal is to enable not just kind of digesting this information, but to be able to create those dashboards. So I'm just going to say product categories. So now I can create this chart, different regions, shipment date. So it's basically like the order date, more or less. And there's some profit information. So I put in profit, and let's look at sales. So the sales value. These are automatic charts. There's no like, I wanted to create this chart and what kind of, like there's so many things that can go wrong. Like I've seen demos where like people just, you might think that I'm integrating this on like this predefined sequence that it won't fail. No, like, this is just what it is. It's not specially done for this data set. And I can even go ahead and say profits in dollars because the data does not have those data, it's just numbers. As it should be. So, and I want to list the states, and and I can move the drag and drop. There's some drag and drop, and you can see the state list, and you can even see that on a map. And this is just like a list of states. So this is just like you create a dashboard. It took me like 1 minute, right? But the nice thing is you're only seeing, there's actually so many things you can do with so little. Oops. Okay, it's reloading, so everything is auto-saved, so that's also nice. I didn't probably lose much of the work. It saves every, quickly. So actually it was just saved. And it's another nice thing. It automatically saves up information. And I can, instead of seeing the number of sales, I can see the total volume of sales. So now I can see there's actually $2 million of sales. What is the product category? I can make them larger. So in technology, it's 840,000. what are the percentages, just click on one thing, just saying that it's, I don't want to see the numbers, and that goes towards the percentages, so 36% of your. So there's so many other things you can do. This is just like a very quick demonstration of what you can do. You can create dashboards, you can create public, private dashboards, take notes, do some comparisons even. Just I like doing that as well. I want to compare the office supply versus technology. So this all interconnected chart, there's so many different ways you can filter through. You know, you can think of cross filter, but there's a lot more going on in the back end too. So just
I have a quick question. Can you do SQL queries from this?
It kind of does the SQL queries on itself. Like it just it tries to make SQL obsolete in some ways.
Okay.
You know, for the layman. You know, they always need to go and do some. You know, you need more power in some cases, but in many cases, you do filtering. Yeah, so it just tries to be the first way to query the data.
And what kind of data sets does it take?
Tabular data, more or less.
Okay.
So this is just one example: sales and people and projects, or you know, international development, USA, here, like you know, different tourism events, things like that. So just everything that you can put down on a sheet and like identify. Yeah.
What kind of security are you working
It's the best, believe me.
Yeah.
So, but seriously, if you're talking about terrorism data, what kind of security are you working with?
So this example is pulls up the data from Google. So your Google security applies. So you can just say, I'm the only one who sees my data, you're the only one who can see the dashboard. Okay? You want to say, I want to share this with this account, and that person creates an account, and that person is able to see that dashboard. So this is just the easiest go-to solution, but if you have more security needs, like private installations and so on, this is very manageable. So that just requires a private deployment, or I'll talk about what's the need.
So the only people who can see these dashboards after you've made them is like other people who have accounts on your site?
This data set is actually public. So I can go ahead and dashboard and say this is my public dashboard. And this is actually called visible here. So, and I can set it private. So I can add that dashboard, and this becomes actually the public dashboard. And if I log out, and if somebody goes onto my profile, and basically explore.sk.me/Yelchin, they're going to be able to see this public data set and click explore. So it will be publicly available like for a public data set. If you're private, you can upgrade it.
So how would you embed this dashboard?
It should be, for most purposes, pretty straightforward. Just you can embed the URL and put it in a smaller, you know, frame, and that would work at the beginning. But I'll be very happy to talk about what other kind of embedding specific features might be. Yeah, hopefully that was helpful, and I think it's a good follow the PCS as well. If you like the JavaScript approach, like maybe it gives you more charting style and flexibility, more chart types. Well, so this is more out of the box, no programming.
So before we go on to the second part of questions for Adele, we have one more announcement from a wonderful lady who was not able to make it earlier.
Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Natasha. I work with the National Retail Federation. We are currently, well, if you're looking to work for a company that was nominated Top Workplace in Washington, D.C., both in 2015 and 2016, NRF is where you want to be. We are looking to hire a Director of Data Services and a Data Member Coordinator. So if you are interested in either one of those roles, please see me after the meetup.
That's two bigly roles, great people, great lady, Natasha. Okay, so questions for Adele. If not, meet him at the bar afterwards.
Like if you're interested, if you are looking for some kind of internship ambassadors, like use cases, so you can, you know, just say hi and we can chat. Thank you. Thank you everybody.
Do you want to
Good. Okay. I'm still surprised you guys didn't realize I'm joking, but yeah. over to you, go ahead. So that's a tough one to follow. I'll do my best.
So how did it turn out? Did you get too much of this?
Actually, no, I was able to cut it.
Good. Because we're not going to edit this.
Okay, so this is just a D3 core diagram that I made that visualized how often different groups talk about each other overseas. So you can see that the different groups, let me see, Libyan Youth Voices, they talk about UN mission in Libya a lot. That's probably one of the only groups that they talk about, but you can see the UN mission really doesn't talk about them. This is data basically from scraping the internet, Facebook, Twitter, public CMSs, that sort of thing. And then there's everyone's favorite country. So you can see like what the different groups are talking about each other. So Syria Relief and Development, I believe they're based in DC. You can see what groups they're talking about. Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, sure. Sorry? It's a Python scraper, so it includes looking at just Python requests, but using like Tor, but also using Phantom.js with WebDriver.
You're talking about tools and not the scraper.
Yeah.
How are you able to get Python to scrape?
Okay, so it's actually a hodgepodge of a lot of different things depending on the website. So I've actually written some custom code to use curl because curl had better integration with Tor than Python requests. So I don't use Python requests for everything. But then if you use Phantom.js or Firefox, you can have it use the Tor server that's running on your computer, which is like port 9050, so or something like that. So you just point your Firefox network to that, and then it'll go through that. But it's complicated. There's from what I'm aware of, there's no simple package out there that does it for you. And part of the problem is that not many people use it. So the packages that do come out aren't supported, and they're obsolete in like a year.
Is there a reason for using Tor and not just for Python?
Yeah, so great question. I can tell by your question, you know what you're talking about. We really just use like a hodgepodge of things. So depending on the situation. So Tor is really just to hide your IP address. So if you go on like some sketchy Russian website, you don't want them to know your IP. So you can use Tor to hide that. But we definitely use Beautiful Soup. Beautiful Soup's great. The real question sort of just goes down to speed versus accuracy. So with Beautiful Soup, if you're just parsing the raw HTML, you don't necessarily know what it looks like when the JavaScript's running. But if you use like Phantom.js or Firefox with WebDriver, then you can run command assist to sort of scrape the website using JavaScript. So it's a question, do you want to get the JavaScript version or the HTML version? The HTML version is a lot quicker. You can just like crank through, there's a million web pages really quickly. But if you're going to load each web page, you're going to want to use like Phantom.js or like JavaScript. And you definitely want to use CMSs because like a lot of CMSs use, well, sort of like WordPress and stuff. They use a lot of JavaScript, whereas like news websites, more often than not, I think USA Today might be an exception, but most websites if you just hit their webpage using like just basic HTTP traffic, you'll get most of the content. You won't have to like load it up in a browser. No, it's English, Arabic, Turkish, Sorani Kurdish, Kurmanji Kurdish, and Farsi. Or French. So yeah, that's a great question. So I had to write some code for that. Part of the difficulty is that a lot of the websites, they might look like they're in Arabic, but they're the 90% of the code on the page is in English. But there's also a lot of, I don't know, I think there's like 20 CMSs that are like used for the most part. So once you have code to work with like 20 of the most popular CMSs, that will work with like most sites. So you don't actually have to understand the language to know where the article div is on the page.
How are you clustering these into groups? Is that just based on the website that the text was found on, or are you using some other technique?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. And partly the reason I brought this up is because I'd love to hear what people's ideas are on it. It's using just a really basic algorithm, which is just looking through all of the statements that a group's made, and then counting how many times another group's name appears in the statements. So no like logs or natural logarithms or anything like that.
Do you host your code on open source?
I'd say like half the code that runs the website is open source, and definitely like if people want to talk, I could like open source the visualization. The data is also all open, but like the tour stuff isn't. But also a lot of the web scraping libraries though, they're all open. Like libraries that if you want to like scrape a CMS, there's some libraries out there that will like identify where's the pagination for the page, where's the press release section of the page, where is the list of articles, where is the body of the actual article. So that's open, and I can provide you that information.
Okay, yeah, let's do another round of applause. And so I think, I guess we're going to wrap up the presentations, but anyone who had an announcement, and then all the mentor attendees, if they could sort of congregate in the back and find each other. You can do that. We have to be out here by 9, so maybe about 20 minutes of that, and then we'll head over to that big one. So yeah, thank you all for coming.
The most something happens. See, that's blue, so it's still connected to the network.
Yeah, when I went over here, I was like, maybe I can reconnect it.
Oh, no. So go ahead and choose. Actually, yeah, I mean, let's go ahead. Well, they're going to start networking, so you can go ahead and end screen. Basically, screen